Welcome to Political Perspectives. I'm Hugo Gurdon, Editor-In-Chief of the Washington Examiner, and I'm joined, as usual, by Byron, Chief Political Correspondent. It seems a whole lot longer than a week since we were here on debate day in the morning talking about the fact that the debate could prove the hinge of this election. It might prove decisive. And the one thing that we discussed about Biden was the need to show competence, to show that he was with it, to show that his mental acuity had not declined. What we got on that Thursday night was an absolutely calamitous performance by Joe Biden. He lost his train of thought. He showed every sign of the sort of mental decline that has made so many people think that he is unsuited to being president until he's 86 years old. He's currently 81. I say only 81, but that's more than 4 years away before he would end his second term. Now, Byron, he set this trap for himself because he challenged Trump with the kind of empty, tough guy bravado that has characterized his career. Tell us about what he did and the blunder he made.
It was so odd, and I remember the day very well. It was May 15th, and in the morning, we get this news. Joe Biden has posted something on X, and it's a challenge to Trump, and it's to debate. And it's not just a challenge. Hey, we need to debate. The American people deserve to hear us debate, or something like that. It is, as you said, it's this kind of hubristic, bravado, kind of bullying thing where he literally quotes from Dirty Harry. Okay, he challenges Trump to a debate, and then he says, "Make my day, pal." Do we? I think we have this, right? We should listen to this.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice.
Yeah, it's remarkable. It's remarkable because it has, I was saying, that sort of empty, tough guy bravado that he's always put on throughout his career. And surely nothing can have ever backfired quite as spectacularly on someone saying that.
No, I think they call it a self-own. It was one of the most incredible self-owns in the history of American politics. And what was interesting is, in our last meeting, you and I talked about my interview with Trump, in which I talked to him about the debate and why he accepted the challenge. Because, the second part of the story is Joe Biden posts this video on X in the morning of the 15th of May. And then within an hour or so, Trump has accepted. And a lot of people like me thought, Trump wouldn't accept it, or there would be negotiations back and forth. But Trump just went boom. And he took it, and he explained to me that he took it in a way to trap Biden into the debate, because he felt that Biden was basically making an offer that Biden felt Trump could not take. It's going to be CNN. It's going to be no audience. You're not going to be able to, they're going to cut your mic. You're not going to be able to interrupt each other. So Trump's belief was that Biden was trying to make Trump look bad by giving him a terrible offer, and then have Trump say, well, no, I can't accept this. And then, of course, Biden would just say, you're a coward, and do another Dirty Harry video. Well, Trump called his bluff and just accepted it immediately. And then we saw what happened. And going back from the debate to that video, it's just this enormous blunder. I mean, Biden knew his own capabilities. His staff knew his own capabilities. And given that, doing this belligerent challenge for a debate just seems absolutely insane.
Yeah, and I think the Democrats now, they realize the blunder that they have made. And I think quite a lot of their reactions since the catastrophe for Biden on that Thursday night debate stage, they have been behaving as though they're already doomed, because they are squabbling and fighting amongst each other. And one of the threads of this discussion, there are lots of people saying he should drop out. There are others saying, no, he should stay in. But one of the threads of this is to blame the circle of close advisors and the family. I want you to take a look at the recent cover of Vogue magazine, which shows Jill Biden. Now, there she is. She's looking, her face is turned up in this sort of almost sort of Mussolini-like pose. And she's wearing this sort of cream-colored power suit, and people have compared this to the look of sort of Eva Peron and other. And because she is very ambitious, and she is said to be one of the people who, more than any other, is saying to Joe Biden, "You've got to stay in." She's been nicknamed First Lady Macbeth because it's ambition, right? And talk a little bit about the blaming of the family, the way that the Democrats seem to be indicating that they've pretty much given up all hope of winning this.
Yeah. Well, what happens when things go bad a lot of times is people start blaming each other. And that's certainly happening in the the small Biden camp, and then the larger Biden camp, and then the larger Democratic camp. It's happening in all of those places. And you have seen a lot of criticism of Biden's closest circle, Ron Klain and others, who prepared him for this debate. And you've seen that they said, well, they couldn't start debate preps until 11 in the morning, and they had to make time for Biden to take a nap in the afternoon. And didn't somebody just say, wow, should that be telling us something about this debate preparation? Yeah. And, of course, Biden took a week to do, is it Camp David, took a week to prepare for this thing. And then when he's doing so badly, they say he's got a cold. And then he just, after the debate, he goes out and shakes a lot of people's hands. Like, if he's got a cold, he probably shouldn't be doing that. And so it was just completely mishandled. So you're seeing a lot of darts thrown at the inner circle. You're also seeing darts thrown, the press is acting as if there's been this giant cover-up, that the White House has covered up Biden's true condition. And the press tried really, really hard, but they just could not penetrate this cover-up to discover the president's true feebleness and his condition. And, a lot of people like me have been just laughing at that, because the president's condition has been obvious in public events for quite a long time. And I mean, more than a year. But right. If you want to just talk about June of 2024, the Juneteenth event at the White House, June 10th, 2024, it was a concert. And you've seen the video. There's a musical performance. Biden is in the front row. People are standing. They're kind of swaying with the music or kind of dancing in place. Everybody's having a really good time. And Biden is absolutely frozen. He's absolutely frozen. His gaze is straight ahead, unchanging, unblinking. Right. His body is absolutely motionless. And this goes on for 2 minutes. 2 minutes is a huge amount of time. Yeah. So, I mean, this idea that somehow the White House has hidden the president's physical condition was just crazy. So, and the press is blaming everybody. Everybody's blaming everybody.
Right. But they have, of course, whether you could say that they tried to cover it up, they have, of course, lied about it the entire time. I mean, people. Yeah. There is this sort of weird thing in the press where writers like you, writers like me, who have actually been writing about his decline and his lack of sufficient faculty for years, they now, in the White House and amongst Democrats, they say, I'm shocked to discover this now that the people on the left cannot hide it or pretend any longer that it isn't the case. Yeah, but in a CNN poll just in the last couple of days, 72% of the country thinks that Biden lacks the mental acuity to do the job. That's double the 36% who thought that in 2020. So talk a little bit about the polls. I know that you think, and I respect it, that the polls you need to look at the medium and the long-term effect of the polls rather than jumping on the latest ones. Talk a little about what we should be thinking about these polls. Yeah,
well, on that 72%, you're right about the change from 2020, but it's not that much change from last year. By last year, the American public had figured this out. They'd figured out what the White House press corps was apparently just completely in the dark about, but they had figured it out. As far as the polls are concerned, I said after the Trump verdict, the conviction of Trump in the Manhattan trial, that we should really wait a couple of weeks to look at the polls, because, I think that was on May 30th, and there were polls that were in the field that night. and then the next day, and trying to get reaction to this. And stories came out saying it's made no difference, or it's made a big difference, or whatever. And that's just too soon for people to digest something really big. And I feel the same way about the debate. We're about at a week now, which means you can sort of start looking at the polls. Another week would be better. And the question is not, did Joe Biden do a bad job in the debate? And the question isn't even, is Joe Biden physically or mentally fit to be president? The question is, if the election were today, who would you vote for? And what we've been seeing in the past couple of days, and Nate Silver has done this a lot. This new CNN poll had Trump up 49-43 by 6 points, pretty big. And he's saying, look, you're seeing this growing reaction in the polls, and it's probably going to get even worse for Biden. So I've been unable to counsel caution, because people just jumped on the polls. But the fact is that this is something that's very easy to understand. And everybody has their own human reaction to it. Most people have had an aging relative. They're able to kind of judge this within their own experience. And so it doesn't take a long time. It's not like the Steele dossier where they have to try to figure out, is this even real? It's just something right in front of their eyes. So I think we're getting pretty quick reaction to it.
Yeah. So do you think that there's going to be another debate? I mean, does Biden want one? Yeah. Does Trump want one? It's certainly that the New York Times report just out in the last 24 hours saying that he recognizes that he's in a bad shape and he needs to do well in his next public appearances. Does he want that public appearance, or is that just going to compound the problem?
Well, I mean, if you're playing somebody in a game, best 2 out of 3, and you lose, you say, let's do another. I would think that Biden, as risky as it is, would have to want another debate to do better. Trump is the other way around. It's like, I've won. I don't need to do another one of these things. So this debate, this ABC debate, I just wouldn't bet one way or the other on it, right. Because a lot does have to happen. I mean, as we're talking, there are news reports flying around that Biden really realizes that the next week or so is extremely important. He has an interview with George Stephanopoulos, which is not going to be live. But he has an interview with Stephanopoulos. He has a couple of campaign events. So he's going to probably, go to the campaign event and do that sort of old man jog that he does to show how vigorous he is. So he has to try to see if he can repair some of this damage in the next few days.
So there's a final thought or question, Byron, is this fight over Biden's future and whether he's on the ticket isn't over yet. There was some suggestion in the first few days afterwards that the White House and the Biden camp had managed to kind of dampen all of this speculation down. But it's not going away, and you have reports from CNN, the New York Times, you've got Carville out there in the open saying, the public doesn't want him, we've got to do something. So this is going to rumble on and on and on and constantly undermine him, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it will. I mean, you're right. Immediately after the debate, about 9:30 Eastern time, on the Thursday night of the debate, the Democrats were in total panic. It's all over. They were all just diving off the side of the ship. And then by the next day, the White House had said, look, he had a bad night. We're not going to pretend that he didn't have a bad night, but he's our nominee. Let's go forward. Don't be a bedwetter. And that seemed to hold for a little while. And then you've got, I think one thing that's important we haven't talked about is Democratic members of Congress it's July. They're all the holiday. They're all out in their districts, and they're hearing from people, and they're worried. They're worried about running for re-election because every single member of the House is up for re-election this year, and you're starting to hear from them. So these concerns have actually not gone away after the first initial stabilization. Now, there is still the fact that the president is the head of the Democratic Party, and virtually everybody in any position of influence in the Democratic Party and in the convention structure is beholden to the president and loyal to the president. It's going to be very, very hard to blast him out of the nomination if he chooses not to go. But I think what we're seeing now is this huge effort to convince him to go.
Right.
Because an actual battle to do it would just be really, really ugly.
Right. Well, we'll leave it there for the moment, Byron. I have a feeling that this is a subject we're going to return to week in and week out. And
Yep.
For the moment, that's all we're going to do for Political Perspectives. Thanks very much for joining us. Thank you, Byron, for joining me, and we'll be back next time.